Angular Devs conference. So this is the first edition and first Angular conference in Kiev. So I'm happy that we now have Angular conference here in Kiev. So we'll have close to 200 people. I want to say thank you everybody for the support, because without you this conference would not happen. And we'll have an amazing speaker lineup. So we'll have 4 Angular Devs writers, and we will have Angular contributors, HRX and RxJS contributors. So I want to say thank you to our sponsors too. Again, without them, this conference would not happen. And what is this conference, right? Here's the idea. The conference should be the most technical Angular conference in the world. This conference should be the most technical Angular conference in the world. And as you know, how many of you know Angular Devs as a publication? Okay, cool. Most of you, interesting. Right, so I guess that's the reason why you're here. And also, how many of you work with Angular? Okay. Yeah. Well, so I want to say to you that you got to the right conference. Some people didn't raise their hands, I'm not sure about them, but I'm hoping that this conference will be valuable for everyone.
And you know, when I first started speaking at conferences, I thought that conferences are about sharing knowledge and learning something new. But over time I learned that conferences are also about inspiration. You know, getting that energy to start working on something new, to start improving yourself. And so I got the idea to give an inspirational talk, not technical talk. So I applied to a few conferences with both technical talks and inspirational talks. And for some reason, they only accepted my technical talks. Okay, I want to start with showing you my career, my short career within just 5 years of development. I haven't been programming for a long time. Like, I don't have a computer science degree. I'm self-taught, and I'm only been in tech for 5 years. But because I was willing to put a lot of effort to learn and do a lot of different stuff, I managed to move pretty quickly. So I want to show you the timeline. So it all started in 2014. That's when I had an idea of an educational startup. I started working on this startup. And the interesting thing, I didn't know how to program. So I had to learn how to program, and that's how I got in tech. So the startup failed, as it sometimes happens, or often happens. But I got some knowledge, so I started taking active part in Stack Overflow, spending a few hours a day contributing to the community. Then I got enough material to start my own blog. For a while I was writing myself, but then in 2016 I started Angular in Depth publication, started working with different writers, and over time it turned out to be very successful. And then because of my writing activities, I started speaking. This is the logo of NG Vikings, the first conference that where I gave a talk. And you know, over the course of this period, somewhere I met a guy from Israel, Uri, and he introduced me to this interesting role of a developer advocate. Like, here in Ukraine, we don't have roles like that. I've never seen a job ad about developer advocate. So I read a little bit about it, and I thought, wow, it would be great if I could become one, like one of the first developer advocate in Ukraine. So I found an email of Jake Archbald. He's the guy from Google who's a developer advocate on Google Chrome. And I just wrote him an email. I asked, man, how do I become a Google developer advocate? And he told me, like, we only hire people who are already doing the activities, who are already writing blogs, speaking in conferences. Like, we don't hire people and train them. So you should be doing that yourself. And you know what? I have been doing that, and in 2018, I got a job as a developer advocate at AG Grade. It's not Google. Yeah, but, well, at this point, I don't want to work for Google because I have my own ideas, but still a developer advocate role. And what's interesting that what you see here was done during my spare time, my free time. Because all these 5 years, I had a full-time job. Like 40 hours a week I had to work. And all this was done on weekends, on evenings. So I put a lot of extra efforts. And, well, it paid off for me, right? And I'm sure it can pay off for you too. So, and also by helping myself, I help other people, right? And that's a very pleasant part. So I just want to show you some numbers. So I'm very active on Stack Overflow. They say I'm a top 0.016%. Over the course of 5 years, well, I was very active 3 years there, I have asked and answered about 1,600 questions. So if you think about it, if you take 300 days a year, I have been answering or asking a question every single day for 5 years. That's consistency. And they estimate that I help close to 3 million people. That's the impact, they say. I've also written about 70 articles on Medium, and Medium says that more than 3 million people have read my articles. So if you add that, you will see that I've managed to help 6 million people. So by helping myself, by working extra hard, and trying to reach that goal of becoming a developer advocate, I also managed to help others. And that's great. So how do you become a great engineer and make an impact? I want to share with you some of the findings or lessons that I've learned and the things I believe you should be doing to become a great engineer and help others. And I'll start with my favorite, work really hard. Yeah, when I was just starting, I used to work 100-hour work weeks. So that's a lot, like 40 hours, that's the average, that's how much you work for somebody else, and then 60 hours I worked for myself. Now I work less, about 70 hours. Yeah, well, some of you might say, or you might have read, that there's no need to work hard, you can work smart, right? Well, I particularly like this quote by Sam Altman, who is one of the partners at YC, Y Combinator, is the famous startup accelerator in Silicon Valley. So he says that you can become good at something by working either hard or smart, right? But if you want to become great and have an impact and become a 99 percentile, you have to have both, right? You have to work both hard and smart. And working hard comes with a lot of trade-offs, right? So it's perfectly rational to decide not to do it. Because if you decide to work hard, you will not be able to live a full life. Like, you won't have time for leisure. So no movies, no going to parks, no life. But, again, it has a lot of advantages. Because, like with other things, momentum compounds, and success begets success. So if you decide to work hard, here are the things you cannot sacrifice. You cannot sacrifice your health, right? So eat healthy food, sleep well. I used to sleep less than 5 hours. It had some bad consequences on my health, so try to not sleep that little, but 6 to 8 hours, is recommended, so it's a good approach. And exercise. Exercise, try to find time for exercise every day. And of course, if you have family, relationship, definitely try to squeeze in time for them. Okay. Then, when you start working hard and smart, make learning your lifetime habit. So I recommend spending at least 2 hours a day on learning, right? So my advice is to seek in-depth knowledge. Try to become an expert in something. Like, the kind of knowledge I'm talking about is not how to use particular tool, but for example, in Angular, it's the architecture of change detection. Or in general, like how build systems work. By seeking that kind of knowledge and learning it and spending on it every single day, you'll become an expert, you'll have a reputation, I guarantee that you will be able to successfully pass any job interview because you will stand out. I've done a lot of job interviews. I've seen very few people who seem to be interested in what they do. And to me, the best indicator that somebody is interested in what they're doing is by, demonstrating the interest in learning more about what they're doing. And then when you have that knowledge, you'll be able to apply it at work. You'll be able to finish tasks faster than everybody else. Again, in this way, you'll have more time for learning, and as I said, momentum compounds. And when you have that knowledge, you'll also be able to share it. And if that knowledge is unique, then you'll have a bigger impact. You'll have a lot more followership. So where do you get that kind of knowledge? Books. Books have gone out of fashion. I think very few people read books nowadays because we have videos and a lot of blog posts, but I still believe that the most advanced knowledge is in the books, right? So it's very difficult to, for example, learn about compilers architecture by reading a few blog posts or watching a video. So you have to read a theory about that, and books is where you can find it. So blogs, obviously, find your favorite blog and read it every day. Then we have teams and projects, right? Something that you may not have control over all the time, but try to choose to work in the teams where you can learn from your peers, from your teammates, and work for a boss from whom you can also learn a lot. And try to learn work for projects that are complicated. Right? The projects like Gmail or, spreadsheets, right? These kind of projects have very complicated architecture. So you will be able to find that knowledge by simply working on a project and learning from your teammates. Definitely read source code. If you have a lot of time, that's how I got into this industry, how I got this reputation, how Angular and Depth started, because I was just reading Angular sources and just writing about my findings. And for some reason, people found it interesting. So yeah, that's how you can build that knowledge. In white papers, very few people read white papers. But if you do all that and still have time for reading white papers, that's just, If you were to come to my job interview and you told me that you read white papers, I wouldn't ask you any questions. I'd just say, we need to take this person. And when you have the knowledge, when you're working hard, you have the knowledge, establish online presence. So find your niche, start with it, and become active on Stack Overflow, on blogging platforms, start writing. Even though English may not be your first language, right, which probably it isn't, still, nevertheless, try to put in effort. And for example, in Angular and Depth, we have a few people from Ukraine who are learning how to write, and we help them by doing so. Okay, Twitter, GitHub, that's, so we're not, here in Ukraine, we don't use Twitter much, but abroad, tech communities use Twitter a lot. So that's where you will be able to build your followership. And to make an impact, you'll definitely need a team. So work on building your network. And there are only two advices here. The first advice is learn English well. Right? Just put in effort every single day to become really good at English. Because you need English not just to be able to understand documentation or report status at Scrum meeting. You need English to be able to conduct a meaningful conversation with others, right? To exchange ideas, and for that you have to be fluent. And second, go to conferences. That's an excellent place for networking, for meeting new people, for getting that energy. That's very, very important. Because I believe that human interaction from which you can get motivation and guidance is essential for progress and growth. And to me, Angular and Depth is my team today. Right? That's where I get a lot of motivation, and this is where we give each other encouragement. This is where Angular Devs community, this is where we get reviews for our drafts. We have discussions. Today, most of the content on Angular in Devs comes from the community. Like my articles get 200K views a month, whereas everyone else combined give us 500K. And if you think about it, Angular in Devs community today is pretty big, right? So we had 5 million views in last year, and we have 700K views today, every single month. We have 20K followers on Medium, on Twitter, and more than 100 authors have published with Angular in Devs. So if you have an idea to start writing and you have some insight, definitely get in touch with me. We'll put you through this process. We'll help you get started with blogging. Okay, and I want to welcome a few guys. I want to welcome Alex and Lars, who's been very active in Angular in Devs.